no direct evidence linking him to the crime. The foundation spokesperson is Butlale Mudisani.
5,000 rands is almost a spit in our faces, and the families especially, because I don't think him possibly just being able to be let go of and let free and attend possibly trial from outside, what it's going to do to the family, what it's going to do to the rest of the community, then especially because of the repeat offender. It just continues to show that there's a huge disregard for repeat offenders, and there's no careful consideration.
And finally, the United States has announced sweeping changes to its non-immigrant visa policy for Nigeria. It has cut the duration and conditions under which most Nigerian travelers can enter the country. With effect from the 8th of this month, the U.S. Department of State says nearly all non-immigrant and non-diplomatic visas issued to the Nigerian citizens will now be single entry and valid for only 3 months. It says this is part of a global realignment, a sharp shift from previous visa terms, which often allowed for multiple entries over 2 years or more. The Nigerian government has not yet commented. Recapping the top story, the Judicial Conduct Tribunal is today expected to see the conclusion of the cross-examination of the Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
They all believe they will be crowned champions, but gold medallions are reserved for the best of them all. It is the incredible clash of the 12 African women's national teams. Catch all the 24 matches of the Cap Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024 from 5 to 26 July 2025 on SABC Plus, S3, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
This Mandela Month, SAFM celebrates the spirit of Ubuntu, calling on all South Africans to engage, uplift, and do good for one another. Let's share what we have, lend a helping hand, and honor Madiba's legacy through kindness and action. Join SAFM as we bring you powerful conversations, inspiring stories, and voices that drive change all month long. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
So if we know that eating healthy is good for everyone, then why aren't we all doing it? Because the things that we choose to eat are about a lot more than just the facts. For example, recently at an event that my company was hosting, a guy actually came up to our table and he said, "I'd rather eat what I want and die soon than eat healthy." But the choices we make about the foods that we eat have a lot to do with the feelings that they give us and the memories that are ingrained over time. But if we start to find 1 or 2 healthy foods and begin to make happy memories around those foods, I believe that we can start to change the way that we eat. When our clients started to ask us to make healthy foods for their children, we began to do the research on how to make healthy foods attractive for the younger population. And when we started to do this, I was reminded of my dad's meatloaf. So when I was a kid, my dad made the best possible meatloaf. And we knew that because he told us that. But more importantly, we knew that because of the memories that were surrounding the meatloaf. So days prior to him making that, he would even maybe wake us up and let us know, like, Dad's making his world-class meatloaf. So you better believe on meatloaf night, we were home long before the streetlights came on. So I think one of the keys to changing the way that we eat is to start creating happy memories around those foods. We can maybe even change the composition of an existing favorite, like breading our chicken with oatmeal and baking it rather than frying it, or at your next party, instead of having chips and dip, try apples and cheese instead. Instead of making sandwiches, try doing lettuce wraps. If we take it day by day and meal by meal, I believe that we can begin to reap the cognitive benefits of eating healthy. And when I was studying nutrition, I learned that we first eat with our nose, then our eyes, and then our mouths. So we decide based off how something smells, if we like it, or even how it looks, long before our palate has the opportunity to make that decision.
Jared Graybeal is a nutrition and fitness expert and entrepreneur. I don't know, lettuce wraps over over that flour. Okay, Labo says he wouldn't mind lettuce wraps. One delay, my TD today, do lettuce wraps sound like something that would, get you going? Okay, it's a no from one delay. I don't know. I think I'm on the fence about that one. I think let's have both. Half lettuce wraps and half tortilla wraps. How about that? That way you can sort of just straddle the middle. A very good morning to you. Welcome to the Talking Point. It's 10 after 9 o'clock. My name is Cathy Mohlahlana, and I'll be with you until midday as we lead the conversations that move us. Coming up on the show, we'll start off with the open line this morning, 086 000 2032. That's the number to dial, 086 000 2032. It's the National Roundtable, and of course, everybody has a seat, and you are all invited to be part of the national conversation. On the WhatsApp voice note line, you can send those WhatsApp voice notes to 0614 104 107. Coming up in the show today, for the second hour, we're going to be getting into Municipal Watch. And today we are looking at the Polokwane. We're looking at the Polokwane municipality, and this is after we received quite a number of calls from listeners in my hometown, I should add. That's my hometown. A number of listeners from Polokwane who have been raising different concerns around service delivery, and much of it really concerning some of the areas that are outside of town and the lack of development and lack of attention paid there. So we'll focus on that municipality in the second hour of the show. I will try and play as neutral a referee as I can, but of course you know that sometimes, especially when I feel that, we're not being given the full state of affairs, as it were, I do have to push back where it's just the sensible thing to do. But I'm saying that because, like I said, Polokwane is my hometown. So I'm just disclaiming if maybe it comes across like I'm a bit more emotional than I would normally be. If I say no, but I know that street. I've known that street for 20 years. Don't judge me too harshly. All right, and then the final hour of the show, we'll be looking at sport as a unifier, especially when it comes to social cohesion and dealing with hate and racism on a global scale. And it's undeniable, the fact that the role that sport plays in society has become more and more important. And yes, the debate can go on about what is the rightful expectation that what we should have of sportsmen and women, of being ambassadors, or even of taking up some of these issues and struggles that society is dealing with. But it's such an important conversation to have, and we'll see what different parts of the world have actually done in looking at sport as a unifier. We're going to be in conversation with Robert Kikongo, who is a peace negotiator and a sustainable development analyst in Uganda. And then we'll also be in conversation with Professor Noor Nifter-Khadin. He's the head of history workshop at Wits University. And that will bring us then to the end of the show. So that's what's on the menu for this Thursday morning as we have the conversation right here on SAFM. I'll be taking your calls 086 000 2032. That's the number to dial this morning, 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107. We'll take a quick break and I'm back with your calls on the other side of this.
The Twiga Stars want to impress the Tanzanians with maximum points, while Banyana Banyana won nothing but a win as a reminder that they are the continental champions. This is the Group C clash of the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the glittering clash between Tanzania and South Africa on Friday 11 July at 8:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and S3. Also available on SABC radio stations at 9 p.m. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The Morning Brief.
Do we know why our driver's license expires every 5 years and we have to go through the schlep of renewing it?
Look, there's no real or valid explanation to have to renew the license every 5 years because it's not like you undergo a test again or your ability to drive is tested again. The only thing they do is test your eyesight. I can assure you, you or I do not want to drive if you're blind. So it's just a fallacy. And in fact, most countries around the world are at an average of 10 years, some 15, even 20, to just renew the card. And this is, quite frankly, a money-making scheme.
That's Wayne Duvenage, who is CEO of the organization Undoing Tax Abuse.
Tulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief. Find the podcast at safm.co.za.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Well, let's get straight into the conversation then. It's your National Roundtable. I'm taking your calls on 086 000 2032. David, you're in Pietermaritzburg. Good morning.
Yes, Cathy.
Yes, sir.
Yesterday, I was listening to Minister Motsoaledi. He was responding on the issue since there are people who are pushing for public servants to use public facilities, especially hospitals. He said about 70 billion will be able to be transferred to the hospitals or the health department if all of us as public servants can use a public hospital. For me, I think that's a very, very noble and a good idea because it will do away with the sting of us and them. You know, when you're admitted in this private hospital, then it's well and good. But you also think about those people who can't access such facilities. So if 70 billion is transferred to the public hospitals, they will be developed to a state of maybe private hospitals. And again, I don't know why organizations such as the TA are against it because they are part of the GNU now. They'll be able to monitor and ensure that these funds are used for what it meant for. So for me, really, I think all these organizations they should and the civil society groups they should push for that to say us as public servants we must be forced to use public facilities.
David, do you want them to be forced to use public facilities now, today, or in future?
Obviously, there's an issue of the constitution that should be addressed. To say, as public servants who are responsible for ensuring that those facilities are up to standard, we must also use them, you know. So, yeah, I know it can't happen overnight.
Yeah. Look, I think the point that you make is a valid one in that, you know, ordinary people shouldn't be the only ones that are subjected to some of the conditions that people experience at public hospitals. At the same time, though, when I think about the state of public hospitals today, not all of them certainly, because you do have public hospitals that are very well run, that really deliver great services given the extreme pressure that they are under. So I don't want to paint a picture that this is a wholesale view. But I remember when the former minister, Mantu Chabalala Msimang, was in a hospital, and, she really insisted on using public hospitals, etc., etc. And at the time, there's just, and I don't think that it's necessarily the fault of the office bearers. It's how people respond to the fact that there is a powerful position in a particular area. You find that a lot of attention is actually invested by the officials, by the nurses, by the staff in the comfort of this person. And I just wonder about what that would mean wholesale if our public representatives were to use public facilities today. If all of them were to use public facilities today, that I don't think our infrastructure is necessarily the way in which we respond to public officials, the way in which even those that are in public institutions respond to it, that it would necessarily solve the problem that we once solved. The problem that we once solved is the fact that there must be good service delivery, and we should focus on that. I don't know if the point I'm making to you makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense, but another thing, it will also reduce the unemployment rate for specifically health professionals, because if you transfer about 70 billion, a lot of these unemployed doctors have employment. We won't complain about health professionals being exhausted because they are servicing more patients that visit the health facilities. So I think along those lines.
Okay, all right, David. Thanks for that contribution. Look, I think David is also speaking more broadly around the NHI and why there isn't support for the NHI. What I've seen, David, is that there remain so many questions around how it is going to be implemented, and perhaps also not a full honesty in as far as reflecting on the current state of affairs and what it's going to take to turn things around. So we first have to begin by investing in our primary healthcare sector. And until that is done, then we can come into secondary care. And I guess the trust has to start somewhere, because you can't have a dysfunctioning system. Look at what's happening now. The allegations that we've been watching over a number of years over hospitals such as the Tembisa Hospital. Corruption allegations are still continuing today. They're still reporting on irregular tenders at that hospital today. And unless such issues are dealt with, and there is that clear commitment to show that it's not going to be the same cycle, then I think the distrust is going to continue and the lack of support is going to continue. Bongani, you're in Willowvale. Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am. I would like to see the agenda of the proposal. There are items I would like to see in the agenda of the national dialogue.
Bongani, I'm going to ask Lebo to give you a call back. That line to you isn't great. We'll have to see what we can do about it. While that happens, let me go to Bedford View. Tula, good morning.
Good morning, Ms. Cathy. How are you?
Well, thanks, Tula.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to say, when we are voting, us as the voters are the people who put all these, let's say the politicians, public servants into their offices. Why should we who are supposed to be the bosses, who are putting them in those positions. They are serving us. We should be using public hospitals. They should be using private hospitals. It can never be right. So they should also start using public hospitals. In that way, they will be forced to invest into public offices, hospitals or healthcare, because they'll be using those. They're not investing into that, not taking serious those hospitals. Why? Because they know they don't use them. So it will just be right to force them to make sure the health care comes to standard. Thank you.
Tula, do you genuinely believe that forcing public officials would change that? And when we say public officials, are we talking about ministers at the top, or are we generally saying that, government employees should not have private medical aid schemes and that they should use public hospitals?
Yes, I'm saying not necessarily forcing them, but I think policy should be changed to say we are all equal before the law. So they say. So why should others go to private facilities? Why can't we? It's like, let me put it this way: if Cathy, you are cooking food that you eat, you make sure the food is well prepared. But if you are going to cook food that you know you're not going to even taste it, somebody else will eat it. You're not going to put that much care when preparing it. You're just going to say, okay, let me cook as long as they'll eat, they'll be satisfied. Yeah, but if you're going to be that food you're cooking for yourself, or you're going to eat it with the same people you're cooking for, you're going to take care in preparing it. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, all right, Tula, thanks for that view. General, you're in Ndwendwe. Good morning.
Morning, Cathy. How are you?
Good, thank you, sir. Go for it.
Great, Cathy. You see, Cathy, I believe we shouldn't make things the approach that is a top-down system. There is nothing wrong with using public facilities, but the conditions should be conducive. It shouldn't be like that everyone or anyone is forced. And I don't think that there's anyone or public servant who do not want to use a public hospital or public clinic. It is the conditions there. Let me take the case of the minister or a member of parliament going to the public hospital. For those public figures, their appointments will be arranged with hospital CEOs or somebody at high levels in the hospital. They will go without going to the queues, and everything will be facilitated smoothly. Within an hour or 30 minutes, they are just there receiving the top help, top assistance. So with me, an ordinary public servant, I would go there and wait for a whole day without getting assistance. So it's not that these public facilities are closer to us, to be honest, but it is the kind of the help that you will receive there that chases you away. So they should make conditions conducive for us public servants to go there. We would be going there.
But General, in what way do you face hate? Have you had an experience with this?
For what, Cathy?
In what ways would you face hate or behavior that is untoward if you're a public servant?
No, I'm not saying hate or untoward behavior. I'm saying the general conditions, whether it's the reception, where you go there for admission, the attention, where you have to be attended by your nurses and the likes. You'll be there for the whole day without getting assistance, and worst of all, going there and getting no medication that is required for your particular illness or whatever that sends you there. So the conducive should be uplifted to a certain point where we are all attracted to go there. We'll go there certainly.
So things must work. Things must work because if you're a professional, you can't afford to take 3 days off just so that you can secure an appointment with a doctor while
That's
you're
a no-no.
waiting in the queue. Okay, fair enough, General. One of our listeners says, I don't know if I agree with your response. People invest in things that determine their levels of comfort. I'm not mad at the logic of making people responsible for our money use, to use the services that they are responsible for. So this listener agreeing then with David. Look, the point that I'm making is that in our current infrastructure, if you have a minister showing up at a public facility, there'll be very little happening at that hospital because people are going to be focused on the fact that the minister is here. And so things must be in order. It's very easy to see. Look at what happens on a day that a media briefing has to come from a particular area. The town stands still. Everybody else now has to play second fiddle. And the point I'm making is that how things are set up socially right now, I don't think it helps to solve the problem. The problem is efficiency. Let us solve that problem. Forcing the public servants to use these facilities only means that they will get the better treatment. Everybody else will still receive the level of treatment they've been receiving. And on that one, I can stand. It's 9:30. Time for the latest news headlines.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, the highest chamber of the European Court of Human Rights is due to deliver its verdict shortly on whether South African athlete Caster Semenya must be required to lower her testosterone levels to compete as a woman. The Judicial Conduct Tribunal is today expected to see the conclusion of the cross-examination of Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge. He is on the stand since Monday, giving his version of events in the landmark sexual harassment probe against him. And community policing forums on the Cape Flats say they need to constantly engage authorities on crime-fighting strategies was at the core of their meeting with the senior police management. The meeting took place in Mitchell's Plain yesterday. I'll have details on these and other stories at 10.
It's all about fresh fish and vibrant flavors on the Tastemaster SA this Tuesday evening at 7:30 on SABC2 as our top four visit the Hout Bay Harbour for a crash course in seafood the old school way. Then reel in a gourmet seafood takeaway experience of their own. Who will sink and who will swim into the semi-finals? The Tastemaster SA, Tuesday evenings at 7:30, repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. on SABC2.
Nelson Mandela once said, "There can be no greater gift than that of giving one's time and energy to helping others without expecting anything in return."
What's your Mandela Day game plan this year? Why not lace up those sneakers and hit the ground running at our annual Mandela Day Walk and Run on July 19th at the DP World Wanderers Stadium, Ilovo. You can walk 5Ks, run 10 and 21Ks, and still have enough energy to have fun. It's a whirlwind of fun and laughter, all for a fantastic cause. Every cent goes to support the excellent work of the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Enter on mandeladay.com or register for the virtual race on fundnation.org/Nelson Mandela. See you there.
SAFM music, crafted to make you feel real good. Handpicked just for your pleasure. Classics sounding so good, only on SAFM. Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Good morning, Sisketi. Our healthcare system, Sisketi, is under pressure. See here in Chaswet Hospital, Arkekan, it's very bad. Labor ward is full. Most of the people they are people from Malawi. As a civil society, we are trying to intervene by managing the situation. because we say no to illegal immigrants in our hospitals. But now Department of Department of Health is fighting with us. So how about Section 34? I want somebody who's going to explain to me, because there is a confusion between Section 34 and Section 27. This is Bongani from Chaswet.
Morning, says Cathy. The only thing that can help us to public facility to work right is all those public servants also to use it. There's no other way that it will work while they don't use it. Cannot now we hire the teachers to teach here in what you call it, in location, but they take their children to white school or town schools, or you get the nurses that are using medical aid to private hospitals. So you're never going to get the same services. So to get the same services, all those public servants to use the same thing.
Thanks for those WhatsApp voice notes. Yes, for all public servants, not just the people at the top, that perhaps could be part of the solution. I don't think there's low-hanging fruit here, right? Because you can't fix a broken system by tinkering here and there and thinking it will make all our problems go away. We do need a fundamental change in how our public health system is run. And I think that's why the NHI has been proposed as part of the solution to the problem. I've always said that I absolutely support the idea of universal healthcare. I think we do need an NHI because private healthcare is just incredibly expensive, even for the people who should be able to afford it. They really can't, because medical aid is expensive. The inflation associated with it means that when you need it the most, you might not even be able to still afford being on medical aid. But we have to be clear about what are the solutions that are going to bring wholesale and lasting change. Anonymous, you are a civil servant. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Kate. Thank you for this opportunity.
It's a pleasure, ma'am. What do you want to talk about?
I just want to talk about what is happening right now from Sunday. You know what happened. Let me first thank our General Kwanazi for his bravery by standing up against this cancer in our country, as he has loudly blown the whistle. These challenges, Kate, we are witnessing are not in the police department. They are not unique. Similar issues plague other departments, including education, which is my department that I'm working under. For instance, a ministerial task team, which was tasked to investigate the irregular appointment and union interference into promotional posts, was there. It was completed. No action was taken. Those findings were swept under the carpet. Those implicated still continue to benefit, while competent individuals are often relegated to doing the work of the incompetent superiors. This raises concerns about the mental health impact on these victims who are unfairly shouldering the burden. What about teaching and learning, which is the core of the business? What about the learner's future being led by these incompetent leaders? Because of this union political infiltration into the system.
Sure. You know, Anonymous, the issue that you're raising around education, it is such a big issue, especially given the amount of power, localized as it might be, in some instances that these individuals have, right? That they can make everybody's life really difficult and really miserable.
Absolutely.
What do you think needs to be done to deal with it outside of the obvious? And the obvious is that we need a difference in approach to leadership, and how we do politics is actually part of what is killing our country. Because then the idea of networks and patronage, that flows from being associated with a particular party or with a particular individual who's from a particular party. Until we deal with that, Anonymous, it seems like we're going to be dealing with this problem across the board. How would you say we need to approach this issue to change it?
If we can separate politics and education, focus on professional development, focus on the kids. Where are we taking these kids? What about their future? What about teaching and learning, which is the core of the business? Because it's all about politics and inflating those incompetent leaders' egos, calling them leadership, bowing to them.
Yeah. Look, Anonymous, thanks for calling in with that issue. And Anonymous is right. You have to find a way of separating the politics from the service that needs to be delivered. We urgently need to find a way of doing that in this country. Otherwise, this perception is not just a perception that you only get a job. It's coming to a job. It's not even a particular job. Especially if we're looking at the public service, you can only get a job if you know XYZ. Or the alternative is if you're willing to pay this amount of money. That needs to change. Rose, you're in Polokwane. Good morning. Good morning, Rose. All right, I don't know what happened to Rose there. We'll try to get her back on the line.
Good morning.
All right, there you are, Rose. Good morning.
Good morning, Cathy, and all the listeners. I fully support the Minister Mohlahlana. What he is saying is that subsidies, medical subsidies for medical aids should be cut. No one should get a subsidy. He even gave an example that there is a special medical aid only for the ministers and the judges. That money, if they can cut the subsidies, they will get that 70 billion. And what will the 70 billion do? It will upgrade the government resources, the hospitals and everything. How can a nurse or whatever, whoever is working in the medical sector, is working there, but when he or she is sick, they go to the private hospital? The subsidies, what the minister is talking about is that cut the subsidies. All of us, we are paying tax. If you're not in the government, in the public sector, you're not getting a subsidy. So let's cut all the subsidies. People can pay medical aids out of their salaries, out of what they earn, without a subsidy. All that money that is used for the subsidies, that money will help to make the health sector better. That is what he was saying yesterday, and I fully agree with him. No one must get a subsidy. Use your own money to pay your private hospital or your private doctors, but all of us, you can go to a very better and best health system. 70 billion per year is a lot of money. Thank you.
Yeah, and you know, Rose, I often go back to the COVID-19 pandemic because I think that was a time where we saw the public sector and the private sector work, at least in ways that seemed like were impossible before. Do you think that has not given us some clear guide in terms of what could be possible for the future?
It has. But I'm still stressing that no one must get a subsidy. Use your own money. I've got my medical aid. I've not been given a subsidy. Yes, so I feel it's unfair because I'm also a taxpayer. Why don't they give everyone who's a taxpayer subsidy? Why are they choosing certain people in South Africa? We are making more apartheid than ever. We separate people and it's not right.
Okay. Rose, thanks for that contribution. Remove all the medical aid subsidies is what Rose is saying. Let all that money go to the public, to the public sector. And I think that's part of where the contest and the fight back is, because of the role that money plays in assisting the private healthcare sector. And the minister has long held a view that government should not be doing that. In fact, he speaks very passionately about this issue. Cliff, you are in Cape Town. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Cliff. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. I just want to say I don't think it will make much of a difference if public servants are mandated to use public facilities. It's similar to other departments as well. Public servants use the road, but the roads are bad, so because they are using the roads, doesn't really change the condition of the roads. Let's say, okay, in Cape Town is better, but in Johannesburg, that doesn't change the condition of the road. Public servants also use electricity. That doesn't change the condition of lack of power in the country. So I don't think that would solve the state of public health care in the country. Thanks, over.
Cliff, thanks for that. I guess a fair perspective as well, because there are shared services currently that public servants aren't able to run away from. And again here, for me, I want to make the distinction about whether we're talking about those at the top, those in leadership positions, as in at the executive level, or whether we're talking about just your ordinary public servants who make up the numbers of that public wage bill, that those are the people then who David believes must be using public services, in particular hospitals. Kariso, you're in Nkangala. Good morning.
Hi, this is Cathy.
Hi, Kariso. I really hope that you don't want to talk about that subject that I have been avoiding talking about this whole week.
Which one?
You know the one I'm talking about. You want to talk about sexual harassment, Kariso?
Yes, that's the subject I want to talk about. All right. Cathy, I'm just worried, man, about the way cases of sexual harassment are being opened, especially by the ladies in the country. I mean, let me give you an example of what I think. I'm working with you in the studio there. I sexually harassed you, and you noticed that in 2025. And then in 2028, I become a station manager. You start being jealous. Or someone, let's say Tula says, hey, I want that position. Let's destroy this guy. And then you succumb to that. You open a case against me. So I think these kinds of cases must be reviewed, especially including, the rape cases. You cannot open a case for rape against a person who you think in 2002 he raped you, and then today he have got money. You want to extort him money, and then you open a case against him.
I disagree completely with you, Kariso. 100% disagree with you. I actually thought that part of what you wanted to talk about was the judge president matter, Benenge, that has been unfolding, and of course there's been a lot coming out of that particular inquiry. So I thought that was what you specifically wanted to talk about. I think that one of the biggest things that has happened in our country is actually having the progress in as far as some of the laws that we have around assault and sexual assault is concerned, because now, if I'm correct, we've been able to increase the prescription period of these crimes, which means that, yes, it is now possible for me as Cathy, as a grown woman, to want to take steps against an individual who may have raped me when I was a child, but at that time did not have whether the language, whether the courage, whatever you want to use, for whatever reason, I may have been unable to take up that matter at that time. But now that I have reached where I am and I feel differently, I want the opportunity to do that. So I don't think that it is wrong for women to take a stand and want to hold any perpetrators of violence against them accountable at the time that they feel that they can do it. Where did Kagiso go? I've lost Kagiso on the line. Okay, no, Kagiso, we're going to try and get you back up on the line because I really want us to have a conversation about this. All right, let's take a quick break. Anonymous, Tembele Pele, I see you all.
Champions need motivation above and beyond winning. South Africa, show your love and support for the WAFCON defending champions by Yana. Witness the CAF Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024 from 5 to 26 July 2025 on SABC Plus, S3, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
It's all about fresh fish and vibrant flavors on the Tastemaster SA this Tuesday evening at 7:30 on SABC2 as our top 4 visit the Hout Bay Harbour for a crash course in seafood the old school way. Then reel in a gourmet seafood takeaway experience of their own. Who will sink and who will swim into the semi-finals? The Tastemaster SA, Tuesday evenings at 7:30, repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. on SABC2.
Hashtag SAFM Talking Point.
Well, we continue the conversation on the talking point. Kagiso, I'm not sure why we lost you, but I've got you back up on the line in Nkangala, and you raised the point around sexual harassment and rape, and that, people should not be allowed to bring up these cases after a certain amount of time has passed. And I said to you, I disagree completely with that idea.
Yeah, says Cathy, I'm not worried about you not agreeing with me, but I don't think you understand me properly. I have given you an example. I'm working with you in the studio as an elder person, whatever age, maybe mid-30s or on your late 30s, and then I'm also in the same age. I become a station manager, you start becoming jealous, or someone pushes you because he is interested. He pays you. In 2027, it happens in 2025 while you were on your 30s. Now you are on your 40s, I became a station manager, you start becoming jealous, you open a case against me. Such things should be viewed in a different way, because whatever that is happening in Eastern Cape now with that judge is the same thing. Do you know that song? I'm not sure about the artist for that song, but it says, Wang Pega Yang Kolota, Wang Shela Yang Patala. It simply means whatever that is happening there. So that means, Mom Zanzimu, no one should be interested in a certain woman, especially when you are working with her. So,
no,
I don't know how
Kagiso, it's not about that. I think it's about being appropriate. There's a level of appropriateness that is required. And we need to be honest about that, because the thing is, if something was consensual, it was consensual, and there's no way that if it was consensual, it could constitute sexual harassment. In this matter, the inquiry is still unfolding, right? So we'll have to see in the end what determination it comes to. But if you sexually assaulted somebody, the crime was committed. There's no way of talking around the issue.
Yeah, then I think we have to find the correct meaning of harassment, because even if a woman is walking half naked on the street, it's a sexual harassment to us as men, but we don't go and open cases against them.
How is it sexual harassment to you?
A half-naked woman body can arouse a man. That's a nature. It's a harassment on its nature. So we don't go around opening cases because we see half-naked women and we feel that we are aroused because they are passing by the streets or in public.
Kagiso, do you know that there are naked beaches in the world where everybody on the beach is naked?
Yes, I'm actually saying something of that nature, because I'm saying I'm proposing for a relationship from you in my own words, it doesn't mean harassment. That's why I'm saying let's go and check for a proper meaning of harassment. Maybe we check. I don't know how, but we just check on the proper meaning of harassment and apply it correctly. Because it cannot be harassment when I'm proposing
says
for a
that
relationship.
it's unwanted. It's unwanted. Ga ke go nyake, wa nkenya. And when you say what you say to me, it makes me feel uncomfortable. It is unwanted.
Yes, it's fine. Why do you keep quiet today? And then on a later stage, when I'm something, you start to say, hey, this guy have shelled at me.
Because I don't want you to do that to other people in your new position. Now that you're a boss, it means that you're going to be able to do it to many others who are going to suffer in silence.
Okay, no, it's fine, but let's check the correct meaning of harassment and apply it correctly, please.
Okay.
Because men are suffering from wrongful arrest and wrongful whatever lyricking the case.
Yeah, but the other thing is that some men also need to be honest about the reality of the situation, which is that women are not just sitting there waiting for men's attention, and that if you give a woman attention, she immediately is flattered by that attention or is amused by that attention.
And does it become a case if I see you and I become interested and I tell you, depending on however I construct my saying to you?
We're in a workplace. Why are you busy saying inappropriate things in a workplace?
It doesn't matter. There are
it
people
does
who are
matter.
How does it matter, says Cathy, if you are working as a teacher and in a school you see a teacher that you think you can build a family with and you approach her? How does it become wrong?
Yeah. If it's unsolicited and it's unwanted. The thing is, we had a conversation about this. Was it just earlier this week or last week? It was on Friday. At the heart of sexual harassment is the fact that this is unwanted behavior. I don't want it. I don't want it.
Don't want it in a sense of not wanting a relationship with me, or you don't want
in any sense. Uskatla gonna, don't come to me. Don't tell me you like my dress. Can we go out for a date? I don't want that kind of behavior.
And then how should I approach you when I...
Don't approach me! Kagiso. Oh, Kagiso, I am done with you. I'm leaving you, Kagiso and Nkangala. All right. Let me go to Stembele in Flagstaff. Good morning, Stembele.
Morning, Cathy. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Go for it.
You know, we've always been as public. I think all of us, if not 95% of us in South Africa, we have always been wanting that General Lieutenant Mkhwanazi to become the National Commissioner. But the Gicele chose to turn a blind eye on that, even though here is my question.
Stembele, try and move around for me a bit. That connection to you is not great.
Oh, okay. Now let me just pull aside. Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's a lot better. Thank you.
Yes. So what I'm saying, Cathy, is that general public in South Africa, you know, I'd always been wanting Mkhwanazi to become a national commissioner. But Gicele chose to turn a blind eye on that and went for Masemola instead. Now, my question is that why, if it was wrong to General Masemola or to Commissioner Masemola to disband the what you call the task team, the political killings task team. So why did he keep quiet for such a long period of time? Why didn't he act towards it? And secondly, if, according to him, because he says he does not know, he doesn't have the letter. So when he had a public meeting yesterday, he did not come with his deputy, that is Shadrach Sibiya now. He did not come with that gentleman. Why did he leave him behind? Why did not he come with him? So it's those questions, because those gentlemen, in most cases, they will come to us and the public and tell us something that is very contradicting, you know?
Yeah, look, and Stembele, the obvious question is, how would the shutdown of such a significant operation, how could that practically happen without the knowledge and insight of a national commissioner?
The boss.
So that means that in all of the meetings that they have, one would planning meetings, etc., whatever those meetings that they have operationally would be, it means that he did not know about it at all. Now, is that even possible, given the fact that the minister made this announcement publicly around that task team and effectively instructed the SAPS to carry out that mandate?
Not only publicly said that, he went on to act and disband that political killing task team, and under his leadership as the national commissioner.
Okay.
And he did not bother coming to us and say, okay, what is being done by Minister Mchunu and probably Shadrach Sibiya. I have not given a nod to it. I did not agree to that.
Stembele.
So why only now does he agree? I mean, does he say that he does not know about the letter? So that gentleman must just come out and tell us the truth.
Let's leave it there. Stembele out in Flagstaff. All right, we'll take the latest 10 o'clock news. We're back with more on the other side of this.
In our top stories, European court to rule in Semenya's gender case, and Israeli official claims a Gaza deal is possible. Good morning. The highest chamber of the European Court of Human Rights is due to deliver its verdict shortly on whether South African athlete Caster Semenya must be required to lower her testosterone levels to compete as a woman. World Athletics barred her from competing in 800-meter events after she refused to take drugs to reduce her levels. The double Olympic champion was born with differences of sexual development. The Judicial Conduct Tribunal is today expected to see the conclusion of the cross-examination of Eastern Cape Judge President Selbie Mbenenge. He is on the stand since Monday, giving his version of events in the landmark sexual harassment probe against him. Junior Judge's Secretary Andiswa Mengo has accused Mbenenge of sexual harassment. The remaining cross-examination is expected to focus on an incident on the 14th or 15th of November 2022, in which Mengo alleged that Mbenenge had solicited an act of sexual nature. Community policing forums on the Cape Flats say the need to consistently engage authorities on crime-fighting strategies was at the core of their meeting with senior police management. The meeting took place in Mitchell's Plain yesterday, following the killing of 10 people in a string of suspected gang-related shooting incidents on the Cape Flats in less than a week. Although there's calm in the area currently, residents are still living in fear. Chairperson of the Mitchell's Plain Community Policing Forum, Norman Yankees.
He's looking at the integrated strategy that's not going to primarily focus on law enforcement, but it's going to focus on prevention, intervention, life skills training, deal with the issue of substance abuse, truancy, early school dropout, unemployment, lack of facilities, the installation of number plate detectors and cameras. So hopefully we'll come up with a very holistic plan.
The City of Johannesburg's MMC for Housing, Mlungisi Mabaso, says some senior South African officials are also involved in hijacking abandoned buildings in the CBD. Mabaso and the acting mayor spearheaded a raid on hijacked buildings earlier this week. Mabaso says they are colluding with the hijackers of the buildings.
Some of our officials in the municipality and in other departments, they are also involved. We were informed when we visited one of the properties that officials from Department of Labour, they collect money from the owners of the companies. Members of South African Police Service, they are also collecting money. Our officials, especially those that are working within the department that is responsible for the electrification in Johannesburg.
And finally, a senior Israeli official says if an agreement is reached with Hamas, Israel will use it to offer an end to the war. However, the official says for the war to end, Hamas would be required to disarm. The two sides are holding talks in Qatar where a proposal has been made for a 60-day ceasefire in Gaza. The BBC's Sebastian Usher has more.
Those negotiations in Qatar do not so far seem to have come close to a breakthrough. There appears to be an acknowledgement of this in the latest comments from a senior Israeli official who's told journalists that an agreement could be reached within 1 or 2 weeks, but not in a day's time. Earlier, Hamas issued a statement saying that talks were difficult, for which it blamed Israeli intransigence. It reiterated that it was seeking a comprehensive agreement that would end the Israeli offensive.
Recapping the top story, the highest chamber of the European Court for Human Rights is due to deliver its verdict shortly on whether South African athlete Kester Semenya must be required to lower her testosterone levels to compete as a woman. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Botswana is in high spirits to stop the West Africans. However, the Super Falcons want to illustrate why they are 9-time African champions. This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the superb clash between Botswana and Nigeria this Thursday, 10 July at 8:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and S3, where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
30 years ago, a moment united a nation. From Ellis Park to every township and village, we stood together. One people, one dream, one victory. Now, the vibration rises again. From the heart of Mzansi to every corner of the country. The 4-time world champions, the mighty Springboks, take on the Azuri in a clash where history meets destiny. This is more than a match. It's a country moment, only on SABC. Celebrate the 30th anniversary of our 1995 Rugby World Cup victory. Watch South Africa versus Italy, Saturday 12 July at 4 p.m. Live on SABC2 and streaming on SABC Plus. Also available on SABC radio stations at 5 p.m. Download the SABC Plus app now. Switch, stream, no subscription. SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
This Mandela Month, Nelson Mandela once said,
"We have traveled a long journey. We have fought for peace and reconciliation, for social justice, for all men, women, and children."
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
SABC Sport brings you Chasing the Sun, a powerful 5-part documentary series about the Springboks, telling the rousing tale of their path to redemption and ultimate World Cup glory in 2019. Starting the 13th of July at 7:30 p.m. on SABC2, tune in every Sunday for the highs, the heartache, and the heroics that made rugby history. Stream each chapter on SABC Plus anytime, anywhere. No subscription needed. Don't miss Chasing the Sun this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. on SABC2. Be there when history shines.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM
105.1 FM in Johannesburg. The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
You're listening to The Talking Point, 9 after 10 o'clock. Welcome to the second hour of the show. Coming up in this hour is Municipal Watch, and we'll be looking at the Polokwane Metro today. Before we get into that, your WhatsApp voice notes from the open line.
Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Morning, Cathy. I just want to weigh in this sexual harassment case. Maybe when you have time, maybe next week or whenever, I'd like you to call somebody who's maybe an expert in labor relations, that is the employer-employee relations, where the code of ethics in a workplace maybe can be unpacked in relation to the relationships, the innuendos, the flirting in a workplace and what. Yeah, that would be appreciated and eye-opening, Cathy. Mzee Makanda, thank you.
Good morning, Cathy and SAFM listeners. You know, Cathy, as a country, our biggest problem is when our constitution says everybody that is in South Africa must be helped. Now we've got people that cross the border gate to come and attend to those clinics, hospitals, because it's free. It's free. You can't, Cathy, you can't even in your house to just bring everybody and say, I've got enough food, eat and go, loose in Gauteng.
Hi, Cathy. It's a piso somewhere in Sekhukhune. Listening to the response here, it's a piso. One is very much troubled because it definitely indicates why some men play ignorant or avoidance or deliberate misunderstanding or not even trying to understand what sexual harassment is. It's very, very troublesome. Thanks.
Morning, this is Kate and the SFM listeners. You know, there are two things about public hospitals or public health facilities. Clinics, some of them, they are short of staff. In fact, even the hospitals. And that's why they are so overwhelmed. That's why they treat people the way they do, badly. But there are some good people, and they've got the best equipment. It's just that some clinics, they have shortage of equipment. Second thing is, because of their overwhelmed, I think the treatment becomes bad, and also they overlook certain things because they just want to get rid of the numbers that are overwhelming them.
Good morning, Cathy. My name is Ben. I'm a first-time WhatsApper. Cathy, I wasn't going to send this WhatsApp, but I was disturbed by what Kagiso said to you on sexual harassment. For me, whether you raped a person in 1905, if that person now has the courage to report that rape, why can't you report that rape now? Because it still is rape, even if it happened those years. And it doesn't matter if now I'm wearing a tie and a suit and calling myself an important person. Rape is rape, and I committed a crime, a very serious crime for that. So for me, rape should be.
Hey, Cathy, I'm listening to you talking with my friend there, talking about sexual harassment. But I think this thing is troublesome because there are a lot of people who are married today, who have kids, who have families. Women started not wanting to talk to them, but they persisted until those people were convinced, and today they are married to those people. So Yeah, persistence is part of ukushela. Intombi uyayishela nje ulokhu uyilandela. So I don't understand. Yeah, anonymous in KZN.
Hashtag SAFM Talking Point.
I'm Shakira O'Malley and I'm a centre back. What I like so much about living in South Africa is the beaches. So being able to go to the beach and just relax and just let go of literally everything. I had a good laugh this morning at breakfast. I think we were just all just having a conversation. Everybody was interacting. If I won $1 million after a good game, I'd definitely not tell my teammates. Definitely not. I'm taking that $1 million and going home. Tune in to SABC Sport to watch Banyana compete at the AFCON and defend another title.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 750ml Sunlight dishwashing liquid refill for $26.99 and save 11 Rand, or 400ml Vaseline lotion or cream for $49.99 and save 28 Rand. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million Rand in instant cash. Price is valid until 21 July 2025 while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
My name's Kaylin Swart, goalkeeper for Banyana. Between the 3 meals of the day, my favorite is breakfast. I always have eggs. Eggs is my superpower. In the house setup, my favorite place is the chill room. I'm always in front of the TV watching something. That's only because I get so little downtime. I just want to relax on the couch and watch TV, whether it's football, cricket, rugby, you name it. We are the African champions. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
I'm Michelle Constant. Join the JSB crew and I every Saturday and Sunday morning between 7 and 10 a.m. We promise to keep you informed and entertained with innovation, culture, cars, travel, life learnings, environment, and of course, your big fat juicy. Small stories, big ideas, massive inspiration. The Jet Set Breakfast on SAFM.
Municipal Watch, bringing your local issues on the national agenda. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
All right, today for Municipal Watch, we're looking into the Polokwane municipality, not the Polokwane Metro. It was a slip of the tongue there. It is the Polokwane municipality and the state of affairs and the state of service delivery here. This has been prompted by some of the complaints that we have received from our listeners, or the SAFM community, as it were, to put Polokwane municipality on the radar. Let me play this particular clip of Kwena. He's the latest that put it on air last week.
I've sent requests previously to ask the municipality of Polokwane under Aranang. There was a municipality called Aranang, and seemingly it was dissolved, and then every municipality went back to Polokwane for Ramatala. To come on the radio and answer us, are we not human? Don't we deserve to be treated like one? I mean, from Polokwane to Venda, from Polokwane to Bekasford, from Polokwane to Bela Bela, you drive nicely with the tar road from the capital city to the next town, but then just on the doorstep of the city, there's a Matala road. The only road that they maintain is that road because it links the logistic to Lepalale and those sides if you're going to Botswana. But when you go down to Amatala, to the Kohoshing, they only made a tar road that is going to the gate of the Queen. They made a tar road that ends 5 kilometers from the Matala road. It only ends at the clinic. From there, it's a gravel road, a long gravel road that even taxis, some of the taxis when it's raining, they can't get in. They're going to drop you off. It's either where the tar road ends and you are still going like 5 kilometers away. And if you buy a taxi today, trust me, it will only last 3 months then you'll be crying for your property. Last time the community, they made a group called Matamasha, which is Matala and Mashashani. They blocked the Matala road because that's the main road that they use. And they requested travelers or the people who are traveling in that road going to Lephalale and those side to use the Mashashani road through Matala, which is a gravel road, even the officials, so that they can feel the pain that people are feeling every day. And even the Minister of Transport, they've provided us with buses called Great North. Those buses, if you go there, and I think you had a conversation about it previously, those buses, they don't even function. There is a smoke within the bus. People are going to work. You get to work with a smell of a smoke. How can you treat people like that?
All right, so that was the call that we received from Gwena, who, of course, then raised some of these issues. And, of course, he hasn't been the only one. So let me welcome onto the show Cathy Mohlahlana, who is a community member and leader in the Ramatlala village. Malusi Maraba is a member of the Traditional Council and spokesperson for the Mashashani Royal House. And we're also expecting John Mpe, who's the executive mayor of Polokwane, to come onto the show. In the interim, Magwena, good morning to you. Thank you for your time this morning.
Good morning, Cathy, and good morning, South Africa, SAFM listeners.
Malusi, good morning to you.
Slochile, I was Cathy. Slochile to all the listeners of SAFM. Thanks for having us today.
Our Realocha. Magwena, let me start with you and give you an opportunity to tell us about the area that you are from and what you would describe the general state of service delivery to be.
Okay, thank you, Cathy. Yes, Cathy, I'm at Amatala village, Amatala center, in fact, because I'm saying my village is my Maimele. We feel so forgotten by the Polokwane municipality. We don't get service delivery here. Our roads are not in good standard. We have the D road here, the district road, which is gravel, and we're staying very close in the mountains. So our roads are not on good standard. The road which connect the centers, the road D3355, which connects Mashashani and Matala, is still gravel road. The road that connects Badinbeck and Matala, D3377, is gravel road. They pass through the mountain. They are not in good standard. They don't get service at all. So when they come nearly to elections, they come and gravel the roads. And those roads are the key roads, they are the main roads. So we are not happy. We are not happy at all. We are so forgotten by the municipality. We stay in the mountains at night, dark. So we have problem with light. We thought maybe they can give us Apollo light so that we have light at night so that the trucks will struggle. But we don't get services. So we have problem with the stock theft, cable theft. Here we experience such a problem around Matala at large. So, but we are, in fact, we are so forgotten. The Polokwane municipality don't take us serious. We think maybe it's better if they return our municipality Aranang. Maybe Aranang will continue to do the right thing for us.
Your area, Magwena, is what traditionally would be referred to as a rural area, right? And so it comes with all of the other challenges that are associated with living in a rural area. When you look at the development there, do you think that there has been any effort to try and bring in development to the area, whether it's, water, running water, just in spite of the issue of the roads that you have mentioned, of the general infrastructure that you've mentioned?
Yeah, water, some villages, yes, have water, like in my village, we have water. We don't have problem that much with water, but some of villages, they still struggle to get water. And then the main problem that I have noticed here, that we don't get service, is the roads. Because we can't expect much. We can't expect the municipality to bring us food, but at least we need to connect. We need to move from there and there. But if you can check the cars that move in here, all out of line. They can't allow them in town because they are not in standard due to this road. So even though we are in rural, but I think they must take care of us.
And when you talk about having access to water, is that having access to communal taps in the area that provide water?
We have the running water.
In people's homes?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that clarification. Malusi, okay. You are a member of the Traditional Council and speak on behalf of the Mashashane Royal House. Do you maybe want to also give us a perspective in as far as the state of affairs there is concerned?
Okay, thanks, Cathy. What I wanted to highlight here is that we are a very important stakeholder there at Polokwane Municipality. So each and every time we face a challenge, or the municipality is facing a challenge, they bring us on board and then put us into confidence that they understand that they have a lot of things to do there in the villages, but they are trying a bit. So on the issue of the roads, I can say that they have done exceptionally well from our side, because remember, we are from a different side of Aghanang. They are from Hamatala, now we are from Ramashashan. So far, we can see that there are a little bit of changes, although there's a lot that needs to be done. The only problem that delayed all these developments or this good job that the municipality was doing was that the extreme rainfall, this rainfall that we experienced all over the country, it has damaged the existing infrastructure which was brought by the municipality, and also deepened this gravel roads. Now the gravel roads are very, very bad. So every corner of this Polokwane municipality, there's no good road. Even the national roads, the regional and district roads, they are not in good condition. So we are just saying Polokwane municipality has put us into confidence that they will try to cover all these access roads, because so far one of our wards, we have main roads, the internal tar roads, and then there's another ward which Yonai West, there's no tar road. I think after this ward they will get to focus to another ward, but so far we can't complain that much because we understand mother nature. We interfere in the Municipal. So municipalities fixing the existing infrastructure, and also they must bring about new infrastructure. And then on the issue of water, I believe we have a very good infrastructure, which is now operational. The only problem is that we in the rural villages, we are not paying for that savings. So if maybe Maraba is next to the purification center, or Oyahile next to the purification center, he sabotages the entire village. He takes the whole water, or maybe sell the same water which was provided by government to the same poor people of the villages. So I think if maybe we can look around this issue of water, provision of water, municipality or maybe even if we are not going to pay the same rate as what allegation is, but let's allow people from the villages for usage of water, because one can just get purified water and water the green grass. What will you do as a community member? You can't approach that person. So that is the challenge. Thanks very much.
All right, Malusi, I want you just to explain this issue of the water for me again. Because you're talking about a resident who might have a house next to a purification plant. What is the trend that you're seeing?
Yeah, no, I'm saying that the trend that we are seeing there in the villages is that anyone who's next to the pipeline of water that is provided by the municipality can illegally connect and use it for his or for her own reasons without being asked any question. So if maybe we can have a system that then that would make everyone. We have a purification center, we have a dam, and then now when you purify the water just goes to a few number of people, those that have access to the pipe of the center. So it's a challenge in the village because no one is paying for water. It's free water provision. Thanks.
Okay, all right. We'll also get clarity from the mayor in terms of how that happens and what interventions he would propose. We're going to continue taking a look at the Polokwane municipality for Municipality Watch today. I'll, of course, also bring in your calls. For now, it's 10:30. Here are your latest news headlines.
Thank you, Cathy. On the news headlines on SAFM, I am Ondelambana and a very good morning. More than 150 flood victims were accommodated at the Bayside Hotel in the Durban city centre have been evicted. This after the KwaZulu-Natal Human Settlements Department's failure to make payments. Parliament has assured the public that it will apply consequence management in its handling of KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's damning allegations, and the highest chamber of the European Court of Human Rights is due to deliver its verdict shortly on whether the South African athlete Caster Semenya must be required to lower her testosterone levels to compete as a woman. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Taking a look at your markets this morning, the rand is currently trading at 17 rand 75 to the dollar, 24 rand 15 to the pound, and 20 rand 82 to the euro. Markets in Asia were mainly higher at the closing bell. The JSE mainly positive in mid-morning trade. Gold is trading at $3,325. Platinum $1,356 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $70.25 a barrel.
WAFCON reigning champions Banyana believe they can deliver 3 points to the people of the South. Meanwhile, the West Africans Mali have a big task to wrap up their run in Group C with a win. This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. South Africa tackles Mali on Monday 14 July at 9 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and S3. Also available on SABC radio stations. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
These are the weekend shows on SAFM. Music of Africa with Sheila Ndikumana. The Weekend View with Bongiwe Zwane. The Jet Set Breakfast with Michelle Constant. Seasons with Khomotso KG Mweketsi. The soundtrack of your life with Ernest Pillay. Weekend Sundowner Classics with Kutlwano Masote. Spotlight with Zai Khan. The Weekend with John Kherika. Shifting your lens with Bertha Charuma. This is SAFM. Cathy Mohlahlana is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio. Municipal Watch, bringing your local issues on the national agenda. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
We continue with the conversation this hour looking at the Polokwane municipality. We've heard from Cathy Mohlahlana, who is a community leader at Ramatlala village. We've also heard from Malusi Maraba, who's a member of the traditional council and spokesperson for the Mashashane Royal House. We're now joined by John Mpe, the executive mayor of Polokwane municipality. Mayor Mpe, good morning to you. Thank you for your time this morning.
Good morning to you, Cathy. Good morning to the listeners of SAFM, and thank you very much for having us.
I think if we can just start off with, Polokwane has been involved in the process of seeking accreditation as a metro. Where are you with that process?
Well, of course, what we have said from the beginning is that we would have, there are various processes. We've always had an ambition that probably in the northern part of the country, the first metro would have to be the city of Polokwane. But there are things that we had to meet before we can even go that. All the metropolitan municipalities are grade 6 municipalities, and they've got rapid economic activities and development, multiple CBDs, multiple industrial parks, and so forth. So we have set ourselves a target that the first part or the first step is to reach grade 6, which we have reached since the last financial year. Polokwane now is on the same grading with all the metropolitan municipalities in South Africa. We've seen major catalytic projects, the academic hospital, the private sector investment in Polokwane, medical sector, sports, art and culture. We've seen Polokwane becoming sort of a sports tourism capital of the country, which is what we are, preparing ourselves, or what we have set ourselves as a key objective to achieve. We have seen more investment as well into our industrial parks. Of course, expansion of economic activities into rural areas as well. We've seen ourselves tarring even roads going to villages and maintaining good infrastructure, both in the urban, from the city's point of view, but also from our township point of view. We've seen the university's investments as well, expanding with the student city and many other private sector investment into the higher education sector. We have availed land for catalytic projects such as the campus for TUT and many other programs that we have set ourselves to achieve. The Green Act will be doing so turning this year to have a complex that will also have international hotels, that will also help us to ensure that when we host all these activities that are happening in Polokwane, that also involve our 3 PSL clubs, probably among the cities of our size. We are the only city with the 3 PSL clubs, with 3 venues that are accredited by both the PSL and also the South African Football Association to host matches.
So in all essence, then you would say that you are a step closer towards getting this recognition than perhaps you have ever been.
Yes. Remember, it's part of our Vision 2030, and we believe that that is what we will achieve. In terms of the number of wards, we are at the ceiling. We've got 45 wards. Anything beyond 45 wards, it will mean that we should be a metropolitan municipality. Our population has been on the growth as well. We are almost reaching 1 million in terms of our residents. And the revenue, we have improved from 1.6 billion to 2.5 billion in less than 2 years. So I believe that we are on the right track in terms of, what is key is not just about the status, it's about us improving the lives of our people, ensuring that we create the much needed jobs, and we are able to reduce poverty and inequalities within our city.
And that's probably part of the point of a conversation like this, Mayor, because there are residents who have expressly given a view that the municipality should not be given metropolitan status simply because they believe that the state of service delivery has not only been deteriorating, but there's further lack of commitment, at least to the people that live in those areas, about how the municipality is going to respond to this. You would have seen similar reports about areas, about suburbs that fall under Westernburg, Nirvana and surrounding areas. And interestingly enough, it's once you go past those, out of those suburbs, out of town, that road would lead you to an area such as Ramatlala, which is part of the focus of our municipal watch today, because residents there feel absolutely forgotten, that they're simply not part of the agenda when it comes to improving service delivery under your municipality.
Well, look, for us to achieve development, you need all the spheres of government to work together. Of course, there are roads that are not necessarily the responsibility of the municipality, that are provincial roads. There are roads that are national roads. We have to intensify that cooperation to ensure that we, all of us, invest in those key roads. The Madala road is a very, very strategic road that is not only leading to Matala, but is also leading to Botswana, our neighboring Waterberg district. And as you know, the Matala area now has got a shopping center with major activities there. It's one of the rural areas with a very, very busy shopping center with a whole lot of big brands that are there in the rural area. We will not, and if there are challenges, we will be ready to listen to those members of the community to engage us so that we can improve.
Yeah,
we have.
Sorry to come in there. What is being said by residents? They've spent at least part of, the first part of this show explaining exactly where the problems are, and just based of what you've said, you too are aware of the challenge of roads in that particular part of your municipality. The question is, why is nothing being done about it?
No, you'll remember that this is an area that was falling under Ahanang, the former Ahanang, disestablished Ahanang municipality. Of course, the first part, which is before 2021, after the incorporation, was more about planning. If those who are staying in the area, they would have realized that from the past year or two, we have started really to engage in implementing projects, including roads projects in the villages, Muetahare, and those other areas, Mushate, in Matala, Mushate, Stumong, and we are aware that in those areas that we have incorporated into Polokwane, there has been a little bit of what we can say that they were not on the same par in terms of development. That is why we have got a program that intensifies service delivery in those particular areas. And I think it might be that the question, and we understand that all of us, we are impatiently waiting to see what is it that is going to happen since Polokwane have taken over those areas. In terms of water and roads infrastructure, we've got projects in those areas that seek to intensify our work in the areas that were initially not falling under Polokwane. So I can assure the listeners that definitely we are aware of some of the challenges that were there and the time that it took to come up, for example, with the regional water scheme planning and so forth, and as well as the issue of rolling out road infrastructure and other basic services. But
Mayor?
we are working on that, yes.
One of the things that becomes clear from residents is that I don't think the expectations that everything must change overnight. But where you have, for example, a deteriorating state of roads that people are unable to use, that even public transport, those who run public transport services don't want to use the area, then you have a big problem. Now, some of the basic things that could be done would be getting graders out there to try and level the road so that it is at the very least in a conducive condition, that residents' lives aren't being inconvenienced, at least to the level at which we have heard.
Yes, I agree with you. If the listener have got specific, because I was not listening on the radio, I was in another meeting, have got specific areas and roads, we will appreciate if we get the list, and our teams will, within no time, be able to go to the area, grade the roads, or re-gravel where grading is not enough. I mean, I've always said if people see whatever pothole, whatever, we've got a service delivery app that we have launched, but also they can send me the location of that road, and at least give us we will respond and say on this date our teams with all the necessary equipment will come to the area. We are aware that there's been a lot of rain and there's been a lot of challenges with regard to this and that in terms of the roads. But if there are those roads that they are specifically worried about or they are not drivable, we are ready to immediately act.
I'm going to bring in some of our callers who are wanting to speak precisely to some of these issues. Gwena, you're calling us from Midrand. Good morning.
Good morning, Ms. Cathy. I would just love to say thank you, SAFM, for taking this in a swift time. And it's really, really, really humbling to see how committed your team and you guys are to us as citizens. Number one, thank you, Mayor, for accepting the invite. We have issues, numerous issues, as Cathy, but to be specific, because of time, number one is the issue of transport. The Polokwane Municipality have provided, and the mayor will be aware that there are buses, there are commuters who work in town, they use the Great North transport. 2 weeks ago, I was at home. That services has been cut off. Apparently, there are no buses. There was a private entity that was brought on board, which is helping. And now the problem is the roads, when it's raining, those buses, certain areas, they don't reach. The drivers, they will tell you, we're not going to get there because we're going to get stuck. And indeed, we have proven it several times. Those buses, they get stuck there. The road from Korengeng, when you're passing the clinic, to Ramashashani, Marietane, Petule, and then the road to Raselol, those roads, they were supposed to be the priority. Before the priority, you can prioritize Mahosh. You did a tar road, last week, last month, I think, you went to open the office. These offices are just in front of Mahosh. Seemingly, seems like everything is being done just to accommodate the Queen. We as the community, we are being neglected. The shopping center that is talking about, is not saving us. If the crisis that is there with old people who need to travel from Madietan to where? To Tiban. Is probably 15 Ks to 20 Ks. The taxi, you take 2 taxis to get there. They have to get there at around 5 o'clock in the morning and wait for ShopRite. That is only saving them. And then sometimes the ATM, they will still be there around 3. Imagine the old person who's taking chronic medication. They've been there since 5 o'clock. The reason they made that shopping center, and he knows very well, the mayor, that's why he mentioned Koroshi, it falls under Mulech, towards Manamela. Those areas, they are developed because they work with those kings that side. And the reason they did that shopping center is because they know, for that specific reason that he said from his mouth, is that road is a strategic road. They use it for Botswana. The day Mr. Molola is on this call and the Matamasha, the day they closed the Matala Road, nothing was moving there. He can attest to that. And there is numerous loss that happened on the day because trucks that goes to Lepalale, to Milupi, they couldn't move through that road. So I think the language that these people understand is when the community strike and they close the roads so that they can take the longer roads. And sometimes I wish him, the mayor, can drive from town, from Westernbeck, Ashimshetilele Yaramashashani, Askashumisha the Matala Road, and feel the pain that the community feels every day.
Okay. Gwena in Midrand, thanks for that contribution. Maxwell, you're in Ramakala. Good morning.
All right, thank you very much, Cathy. What the mayor is speaking there, it can be incorrect. And no, I can't blame him because he just arrived. And the problem is long overdue. So the issue of the road, let me start with the issue of the road. There is a neglected area covering some few villages with lots of people, population in the northern side. So it's Petule, Pofu, Diveng, those areas are not connected. And there is a potential economic zone on the mountain called Mohoshi, so which can attract tourists there, but there is no roads. And another thing that is affected by the issue of roads, the ambulance, to arrive there, sometimes it takes a long time because of the issue of the roads. A distance that they could have traveled for 20 minutes, they travel for an hour. So that is one of the issues. And another issue is there is a farm that used to export orange by Limbeck, which has collapsed today. They donated it to the community. After they donated to the community, they call it Limbeck. The community ran it down and they did nothing about it. That farm was capitalized with 10 million. We want to know what happened to that particular 10 million that was given to that farm to run, because now it has collapsed and they're doing all vandalization there in the area.
Who was the money given to, Maxwell?
It was given to the trustee who were actually acting on behalf of the community in that area. That farm, it used to be run by the state.
Okay.
They call it Limbeck Citrus Farm.
Okay.
So at the moment, the tractors, they are stolen. Bonali livestock, almost 700 cattle stolen. Sure. It's just a mess. All the houses that were built today, they all vandalized. They stole to the level of bricks. So
all right, Maxwell. Thanks for raising that issue. I've got a break. We're back with the mayor and his responses and more of your calls.
The Twiga Stars want to impress the Tanzanians with maximum points, while Banyana won nothing but a win as a reminder that they are the continental champions. This is the Group C clash of the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the glittering clash between Tanzania and South Africa on Friday 11 July at 8:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and S3. Also available on SABC radio stations at 9 p.m. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Hi, I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons right here on SAFM, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide with me, KG Mweketi. Because where words fail, music speaks.
#SAFM Talking Point.
Municipal Watch, bringing your local issues on the national agenda. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Our focus today is the Polokwane municipality. We've had the questions from some of the residents there. Mayempia, I'm going to give you an opportunity to respond. Please try and keep your responses as short as possible. We still have so many listeners that want to engage with you.
Well, firstly, I think the first thing is to acknowledge that we have expanded road infrastructure, tarring of roads to the most rural part of our city. Of course, with the backlog that we have not reached everywhere and every place that we may want to have reached. We have taken a decision to prioritize strategic areas like, for example, your traditional leaders, because I hear in the rural areas, traditional leaders are important, co-governors, because if you have to get a stand in the rural areas, you go to the traditional leaders. So their offices are centers of service delivery, just like municipal offices. So we have prioritized, and we have also prioritized high mass lights in those traditional authorities' offices. We have, of course, the provincial government has built a new office in Matlala, Mushate, for the services to be rendered, not because we want to just please our traditional leaders or whatever. It's all about service delivery. That's why we have prioritized those roads. The other roads that we have not as yet reached, we have taken a decision, because what we are doing in Polokwane is called ward-based planning. We go to the IDP and say, we've got 20 million for your ward. If in that meeting many people prioritize something else or prioritize a different road than the one that you think is important, it does not necessarily mean that we are not doing the work. It only means that those who were part of that session, which is the consultation with the communities, have prioritized.
But Mayor, do you think that that's the right approach? I mean, that you are deliberately prioritizing service delivery of your traditional councils above that of ordinary members of the community? No.
Remember, our view is that they themselves, whenever they need certain services, human settlement services, they go to the traditional leaders. They are still responsible for certain responsibility in the communal land, responsibilities that they have. And the communities, we're not doing it for the traditional leaders. Every day you go to Mushate, you find people there queuing for these and that services. So they need to go there. They need to go to their clinics. They need to go to their schools. So we will prioritize those areas with those basic services. So it must not be personalized into us trying to please individual traditional leaders. We have tarred roads almost in all traditional leaders. Of course, we have paved into their offices, because those offices are community offices. In some instances, they are also serving as centers of other services. Home Affairs are able to get offices there, and the police and other basic services for our community. So it should not be viewed as prioritizing just individuals. It should be used as prioritizing those services that are rendered for our communities to be able to access these offices of traditional leaders. Otherwise, it will mean that the multi-million offices that have been built at Meshat as well will be seen as us just building palaces. We are not building palaces, we are building offices as government, and also the municipality is providing those access roads and others. And I think many of the residents in our rural areas appreciate the work that is done, particularly by our provincial government in terms of traditional offices, and by ourselves prioritizing the roads to those centers of service delivery, being it clinics, being it... So if there are challenges, let's say we have not reached a level where we ourselves are satisfied that we have tarred all the strategic roads at Mashashani, at Matala. And we cannot get involved in running, they will have to approach the Department of Agriculture about the Limbeck farms. That is not only that, it's got Zibidiela on the other side. And they will have to talk to the Department of Agriculture to find out the governance of such, because at the end of the day, our people must not expect that you will have some form of a welfare. If you are given a farm to run, it must run like any other business. It must be sustainable. So if there are people who are not governing those trust farms very well, they will have to be taken on or reported if ever there's some form of corruption reported to the police. So we really want to say to the listeners, let's engage we appreciate this program, and because it is making us actually to hear their views and things that we can improve on.
So what would you recommend that community do? Because as we heard, that was donated to the community. It's not supposed to be to the benefit of certain trustees. What would you say they need to do as the mayor?
That farm falls outside our area of jurisdiction.
Oh, it falls under Zibidiela.
Yeah.
Okay.
Zibidiela falls out of us, and Limbeck falls into Mohlahlana municipality. I would not be able to go to that farm but however, they can actually communicate with the municipality or the district of Waterbeck to try and find out. But in the main, as far as I know, those farms are the responsibility of the Department of Agriculture.
Okay. Mayor, we still have so many listeners on the line that want to engage with you. Are you comfortable for us to continue shortly for about 10 extra minutes after 11 o'clock? All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. All right. We'll continue with Municipal Watch so we get to the rest of the listeners. I'm also noting the voice notes that you're sending through. Unfortunately, we can't get to everything, but we will try our best to ensure that you also feel that you have been represented. It's 11 o'clock. Time for the latest news.
Thank you, Cathy. On the top stories, European Court rules in favor of Caster Semenya and a global AIDS update report to be launched today. For SAFM News, I am Ondelambana, and a very good morning. The European Court of Human Rights has reignited Caster Semenya's long legal battle against sports authorities over sex eligibility rules and regulations. This follows its ruling in favor of Semenya. This after finding that Switzerland had violated her right to freedom from discrimination, taken together with her right to respect for private life and earn a living through sport. The Swiss government was the respondent. In 2023, it appealed a ruling requesting the case be referred to the European Court of Human Rights Grand Chamber. The Grand Chamber's ruling is final within the Chamber's system. More than 150 victims were accommodated at the Bayside Hotel in the Durban City Centre have been evicted. This after the KwaZulu-Natal Human Settlements Department's failure to make payments. The victims will now be moved to the Chesterville Community Hall as a temporary measure. They were housed in the hotel following devastating floods earlier this year. The department says it has paid 185 million rand to different hotels. Spokesperson Dabezinhle Sibiya says they need a further 128 million rand to accommodate 1,200 people.
Delays caused by the processes around obtaining approvals to avoid audit findings and irregular expenditure by the Auditor General resulted in the unfortunate eviction of flood victims. We met with Human Rights Commission last week and presented this matter. The MEC has indicated that we could have built houses for some victims in identified state-owned land, such as in Shallcross and other areas, but communities there chased away contractors who were starting to build.
Parliament has assured the public that it will apply consequence management in its handling of KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's damning allegations. Mkhwanazi has accused senior police officials, including Minister Senzo Mchunu, of being corrupt, having links with criminal syndicates and interfering in police operations. National Assembly Speaker Thoko Didiza has tasked 3 key oversight committees to urgently investigate the matter. Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Justice and Constitutional Development Chairperson Xola Nqola says they will deliver their joint findings before the 23rd of this month.
We've been given a mandate to look into the matter in a form of a joint committee arrangement, which is sitting next week, and report to the National Assembly before the 23rd day of July 2025. So the mandate is that let's look into what has been alleged and advise Parliament what form should it take, because the matter at hand is not properly attended. It may lead to unintended consequences. We assure South Africans that consequence management will definitely follow immediately after we have determined the shape of how Parliament must deal with the matter.
Meanwhile, Northern Cape Police have dismissed as unfounded social media posts that their acting district commissioner, Kenneth Baloyi, is the director of Vusumuzi Cat Matlala's Medicare 24 company. On Wednesday, police in the province launched an internal investigation into the social media posts, claiming that Matlala's company director, Kenny Baloyi, and the acting provincial district commissioner were the same person. Matlala is back in the spotlight following Mkhwanazi's allegation that he has ties with Mchunu. Medicare 24 company was awarded a 360 million rand SAPS healthcare tender last year. Matlala later cancelled. Provincial Police spokesperson Mashe Hamilton.
The Provincial Commissioner of the Northern Cape, Lieutenant General Kolisi Matola, after having lodged an internal investigation, can confirm that the details depicted in the social media post currently circulating is not that of Brigadier Kenneth Baloyi, the Acting District Commissioner of John Taulo Gaetshuwe District. The police is making an urgent plea to the public to refrain from posting unverified or incorrect information on social media platforms without verification, as it portrays negatively on the organization and the implicated persons involved.
UNAIDS and the South African National AIDS Council will today launch the Global AIDS Update Report at the Bertha Qowa Hospital in Germiston in eastern Johannesburg. The report, dubbed AIDS Crisis and the Power to Transform, is expected to reflect on the global impact of the U.S. donor funding cuts. This comes as studies show that new HIV infections in sub-Saharan Africa have reduced by 56%. The area has the largest antiretroviral rollout program in the world. Refila Megwa reports.
South Africa has contributed to the 54% decline in HIV-related deaths since 2010. However, this phenomenal progress risks being reversed with the sudden drastic cuts from a number of donors that have sent shockwaves throughout the world. The 2025 UNAIDS Global AIDS Update Report, which is being launched officially this morning, will outline how, if the world does not act, there could be an additional 6 million new HIV infections and 4 million AIDS-related deaths by 2029. Refule Mekwa, SABC News, Germiston, Ekurhuleni.
And recapping our top story, the European Court of Human Rights has reignited Caster Semenya's long legal battle against sports authorities over sex eligibility rules and regulations. This follows its ruling in favor of Semenya. I'm Mondelambana for SFM News Headlines at 11:30.
Hashtag SAFM Talking Point.
Municipal Watch, bringing your local issues on the national agenda. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Well, 7 after 11 o'clock, we've expanded our Municipal Watch program this morning just to give residents a bit more opportunity to engage with the mayor of the Polokwane municipality, John Mpe. On the line, Baring, you're calling us from Mashashane in Moshate village. Good morning.
Thank you, Cathy. Cathy, I think in the previous elections, we demonstrated to ANC that we are tired of the talk shop. I'm from Moshate village, not far from the Royal House. In my yard, we have drilled a second borehole because there has never been water since the democracy has started in that vicinity of where I stay. And basic things like water, Cathy, those things are things that should be prioritized. Yes, we understand that not everything can be done overnight, but not to have water for decades. And when we complain, our complaints fall on deaf ears. That is very worrisome. I want to invite the mayor to go and turn left where the road goes to Ramashashane, the P5 road. Turn left there as if he goes to Mashashane. You will see the mess of the road that road is in. Somebody was given a contract to refurbish that road. I don't know what they did, but the road is in a very mess state. We almost caused accidents on that part of the road. So those kind of things, when I can see basic things where things need to be done right. People are given contracts, they don't do their work as they're supposed to be, but they still get paid. So it is very worrisome. We are tired of talk shop. We don't want people to be talking anymore. We just need action. Basic things that will satisfy us as residents.
All right. Thank you, Baring. Sekhatli in Mankweng.
Thobela. Let me save time by asking. And good morning to Councillor John Mbe. Hello? Are you with me? Are you with me?
I'm on the line, Sekhatli. Mayor, just double checking you can hear Sekhatli.
Yes, I can hear.
All right.
Thank you very much for making time, because I've been asking Cathy and the producer a long time. Thank you today when I just heard that you are on the line, and then I quickly just left everything. Councillor, we are struggling, was suffering in the area of Mankweng. I'm in the Mankweng, the place called Ratoga. You know it very well. Toga is connecting Molebo. This is exactly where you're coming from. Councillor, we've got a year and a half now. Last year, the entire year, we had a contractor that abandoned the work between the second phase coming from Letamu after at the back of Paledi. That is going to Ramaganye. The second contractor was called towards the time of the rain. Then obviously he did not even do much. He did half, and then the rain came and washed everything. So we suffered. Even the buses from the Baholiwa and the Great North, they abandoned us that side because there was no way that they can even just come closer to that side of Mamili towards Interamaganye, and then in Mamagela, you know those places. And then this year, I even came to your office and spoke to Mr. Mpao, because I was looking for the Councillor Motabine, who the councillor that has never in his entire life came to the community to tell us exactly what is the problem of that road. Remember, we have to buy even the water boots. What do you call water boots? When we're coming to work, so that we can at least use water boots to go through the tar route. That's when we can start putting on our normal shoes, because we must go to work. Because the buses were abandoned in the road, abandoned us that side. Today, they are trying to work. After we called the community, and then we're ready to go and strike in any way that we can do. And normally when we strike, we go to block R71. We don't care that police will come and chase us, but that is the only way to make you to understand what is happening that side. Secondly, R71 is killing the people even the morning next to Dalmada. There was accident. Every week there is an accident on R71, especially at the cap towards a Ballet Mall. You know why? Let me tell you about Mama Hule. There are people who are supposed to turn into the right, especially into the Mama Hule after Paledi. Those people, they need a turning point, a turning lane, because if they don't have, they have to spend to park right in the first lane, waiting either the space to get into Mama Hule. And as a result, we come there from town going to home. And we don't know what is happening, whether there's some vehicles that are parked in the road because they need the space to turn to the right. That thing is killing our people. Mr. John Mbe, as a councillor, as executive mayor, you are using that road, you are seeing those things. Are you waiting for all those people to die before you can react?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Sekhatli, thanks for that. Mayor, let me give you a chance to respond.
Thank you very much, Cathy, and thanks to the listeners and those who have called in. Firstly, let me start with the last caller because firstly, R71, we are engaging Central about road safety in that particular road. Of course, we had a lot of illegal settlements where people started to build roads in floodlines areas in that particular area, and from our side is an issue that we are addressing in terms of the R71. It's a national road. It's not a municipal road. That is why we depend on our engagement with Central as well as the provincial government to ensure that we create routes inside those settlements that where people are not supposed to cross the freeway in an illegal way. And if you check, Central has also tried to put barriers across the two ways. But that is not enough. We are acknowledging that you need more road safety, you need lighting, because part of the accident is about visibility. And even where we've got those street lights alongside there, we have been having problems with cable theft around Mankweng. The issue of the other roads that they've spoken about, the contractor is on site. We have terminated the first. We had to terminate the contractor. He's aware of the challenges that we had, and that route we should be able to complete in this particular financial year that has started now in July. We have budgeted for it so that we can complete the linkage between Makanye and the Toka areas. So as far as we know, our councillor Mutavine is working very hard in that particular community. He has got weekly engagements with the community. However, if there are challenges, we remain open. We want our councillors to be on the ground and to do their work. I mean, it's the work that they have said they are available to do. They have been elected to do that particular work. So we are not aware that in Mushate, because I'm in communication with the local chief, Mashashane, in that area at Ward 40 of Polokwane, that there is no water at Mushate and whatever. If that is the case, we will send our teams there to go and check the reliability of the water. We acknowledge that, I mean, there's no one who can live without water, and communities cannot keep quiet when they do not have water. If they do not have water and there is a problem in their own villages, they've got a right to call me, to call my office, and to call the directors that are concerned. But we've got also a service delivery app, my Polokwane Citizen app, that we have launched, that they can actually give us the right, even it gives us the right location of the problem, and we're able to send our technicians there. So, where there are challenges, we are saying, Cathy and the listeners, we have had that there are some challenges here and there. We will appreciate that, because we know that some of our residents are more taking a lot of time in Gauteng than in Polokwane and experiencing the day-to-day experience of some of our residents. We are committed to improve the lives of our residents.
All right. Mayor, just two quick ones. One of the questions Gwen had asked you was about the bus services that had been terminated. You didn't respond on that issue.
Yes. The bus service they are talking about is the Great North. We will engage them. Is a provincial bus service. Our local bus service, Liatola Polokwane, is now only operating specific routes within the urban complex. It has not yet been given the license to go to the rural areas, including Mashashane and Mankweng. However, if their routes are not in good conditions, we will expect both the GNT, the Great North Transport, as well as the resident or the ward councillors to make us aware so that we can intervene, both ourselves and the provincial government. They've also spoken about the road, the Pacified Road, that they were the contractor. We wrote to the MEC about it to say that the contractor that was appointed has done a shoddy work of trying to reface on top of another surface road without doing the necessary work that is required, and that resurfaced road is cracking. We have acknowledged that is poor workmanship on the part of the contractor. That is why we wrote to the MEC, because it's not a municipal road, it's a provincial road, and the contractor was appointed by Road Agency Limpopo. But we are doing everything. We'll also follow up with the MEC about that, because that will have to be corrected.
So what must happen now to the community that is without public transport?
Well, we will, like I said, we will engage GNT, because we have not formally, or we have not, I'm hearing that there are some challenges with the buses now on air. We have not heard that there is that particular challenge, because GNT has always been a reliable transport services to our rural areas. If there are those challenges like we have had now, I will engage the MEC for Lidet, whom they own these particular bus services, about it, so that we can address that. And they can also call us or make whatever cancel us, because this challenge, I think, is coming from Ward 40, the Mashashani area.
Okay.
Then we can actually act by talking to the relevant authorities, so that we resolve that issue, because we need a reliable transport. It's a most positive ingredient to build a thriving local economy for the city.
And in terms of the water, Mayor, an issue was raised by the member, the spokesperson for the Mashashane Royal House, who says that in the areas where there are purification systems, the people that live in those areas, the houses nearby, tap into the pipeline, meaning that water doesn't reach the rest of the community. Are you aware of this issue?
Well, in the Mashashane areas, I'm aware of other lines which we went there, like the Ebenezer pipeline, where we find a lot of illegal connections. But illegal connection of water and electricity remain a challenge. So we will attend to that. I know the royal representative that was on air. I will call him, so that we can actually work with our teams, water and sanitation department teams, to go and see, make sure that we resolve that issue. But we are also calling upon the communities to help us when there are people who are connecting illegally, to really report such to us, so that we can share this very important commodity, which is water, of which all of us cannot live without.
Thanks so much for your time this morning, Mr. Mpe. You've made quite a number of commitments. We will be calling you back in a couple of months' time to check in terms of where we are with resolution of some of those issues. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we look at the role of sport as a unifier, particularly when it comes to addressing hate and racism.
Join us for this year's fundraiser, Jazz for Young People concert at the National School of the Arts on the 26th of July. This unique event, perfect for families, is a powerful celebration of youth, creativity and community spirit. So bring the whole family to enjoy a wonderful day of world-class jazz curated by Zoe Mudicha, featuring the Parktown Girls Band, Tshwane School of Music, The Real DJ Zandi, Kutlotaro Jazz Band, and many others. Tickets are just 80 Rand and 50 Rand for kids under 12 via Quicket. Jazz for Young People is proudly brought to you by Standard Bank Joy of Jazz.
The Twiga Stars want to impress the Tanzanians with maximum points, while Banyana won nothing but a win as a reminder that they are the continental champions. This is the Group C clash of the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the glittering clash between Tanzania and South Africa on Friday 11 July at 8:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and S3. Also available on SABC radio stations at 9 p.m. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
You are listening to SAFM Radio this Mandela Month.
It is in your hands now.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation.
They all believe they will be crowned champions, but gold medallions are reserved for the best of them all. It is the incredible clash of the 12 African women's national teams. Catch all the 24 matches of the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024 from 5 to 26 July 2025 on SABC Plus, S3, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
It's all about fresh fish and vibrant flavors on the Tastemaster SA this Tuesday evening at 7:30 on SABC2 as our top four visit the Hout Bay Harbour for a crash course in seafood the old school way. Then reel in a gourmet seafood takeaway experience of their own. Who will sink and who will swim into the semi-finals? The Tastemaster SA, Tuesday evenings at 7:30, repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. on SABC2.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Well, for this hour, we're looking at the role of sport as a unifier, particularly when it comes to dealing with issues of hate and racism across the world. And it really comes in as the EU court now has ruled in favor of Caster Semenya, finding that Switzerland had discriminated against her in as far as some of the expectations that were made on her to compete as an athlete. So a really significant victory for Semenya. But I'm citing that example in light of that breaking news that has come through today, because that was very much a story that had facets of both these issues right now. Robert Kigongo is a peace negotiator and a sustainable development analyst in Uganda, and he recently reflected on this issue using the 1995 Rugby World Cup, right? That moment of former President Nelson Mandela and the former SA rugby team captain Francois Pienaar lifting that trophy together, and points to some of the lessons that we should be learning from that and perhaps bringing into some of the issues we face today. Robert, good morning to you. Thanks for your time. Hello, Robert.
Hello.
Oh, there we go. We've got you online now. Very good morning to you. Thank you for your time.
A very good morning to you and all the listeners.
Professor Noor Niftaghedin is the head of the History Workshop at Wits University. Prof, good morning to you.
Hi, good morning, Cathy, and thank you for the opportunity to be part of this important conversation.
Robert, let me give you an opportunity perhaps to go first on this issue. It seems more than ever there is a significant amount of pressure on sport as a whole, but even on sporting individual sportsmen and women to be part of the solution to the social problem of hate and racism that we see the world over. Why do you believe that we are almost seeing this refocus yet again?
Good morning to the all viewers. I want to extend a happy Nelson Mandela's month. As a recap, I want to first let the listeners know what exactly we are about. The UN General Assembly acknowledged that there was growing concern over hate speech, and hate speech was rising from over exponential spread and purification of diatribe, or in summary, hate speech. A brief definition of hate speech is literally an offensive discourse targeting a group or an individual based on inherent characteristics such as race, religion, gender, that psychologically affects one's social peace and dignity. And we've over time seen black prayers being thrown at sweet bananas and all other objects that display hate speech. Hate speech also comes in form of communication. It comes in form of writing. It comes in form of cartoons. Any behavior that attacks or uses pejorative or discriminative language with a reference to one person, like black people in Europe or in America, or non-indigenous citizens in South Africa, that group is basically targeted, and that's what brings us to this notice. And sports has been very key. We've seen FIFA World Cup that is happening in America, FIFA tournaments, Olympics. There is always a message on the captain's armband. This also happens in cricket, hockey, and all other games. So sports has been used to leverage on because it's a unifying factor. That's why we are focusing on sports as a unifying factor to combat hate speech.
Okay.
And it also raises the concern due to the incidents that happen on pitch and off pitch.
We're going to continue with this conversation shortly. It's 11:30. Time for your latest headlines.
Thank you, Cathy. On the news headlines, DA Deputy Chief Whip in Parliament Baxolile Nodada says Police Minister Senzo Mchunu must be charged for lying to Parliament. This follows KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's damning allegations against senior police officials, including Mchunu. The European Court of Human Rights has reignited Caster Semenya's long legal battle against sports authorities over sex eligibility rules and regulations. This follows its ruling in favor of Semenya. And UNAIDS and the South African National AIDS Council will today launch the Global AIDS Update Report at the Bertha Goa Hospital in Germiston in eastern Johannesburg. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
WAFCON reigning champions Banyana Banyana believe they can deliver 3 points to the people of the South. Meanwhile, the West Africans Mali have a big task to wrap up their run in Group C with a win. This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. South Africa tackles Mali on Monday 14 July at 9 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and S3. Also available on SABC radio stations. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
It's all about fresh fish and vibrant flavors on the Tastemaster SA this Tuesday evening at 7:30 on SABC2 as our top 4 visit the Hout Bay Harbour for a crash course in seafood the old school way. Then reel in a gourmet seafood takeaway experience of their own. Who will sink and who will swim into the semi-finals? The Tastemaster SA, Tuesday evenings at 7:30, repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. on SABC2.
Hi, I'm Zycard. Catch me every Saturday from 7 to 9 p.m. on Spotlight as we bring you blow-by-blow sporting action, news. That's Spotlight every Saturday. You don't want to miss it.
#SAFM Talking Point.
Well, we continue the conversation on the talking point, looking at sport as a unifier and perhaps sort of the ways in which that can be more intentionally done. Robert Kigongo is a peace negotiator and sustainable development analyst. Professor Noor Niftakhedin is head of history workshop at Wits University. Prof, let me perhaps bring you in. Robert has laid a foundation there in terms of why sport. There are, of course, still many people today, perhaps, in a way that we've never seen before, who believe that sport is apolitical or should be apolitical and should be neutral. And I'm intentional about using the word political because when we're dealing with issues of race, when we're dealing with issues of hate, those are very political issues.
Absolutely, and thanks again, Cathy. I think the starting point really is this wonderful news about Caster Semenya and the ruling in her favor by a European court. And what this whole saga around Caster Semenya has revealed is precisely the interconnections between sports and politics. And we can see how outdated ideologies and ideas that infest the upper echelons of the sports hierarchies across the world undermine precisely the kind of intentions that Robert is outlining about sports being able to counter racism and other forms of hatred and discrimination. Sports, like other aspects of our society, is deeply connected to politics and other parts of our social lives, our economic lives. And it reveals the inequality that we see across the world. It also highlights the power dynamics in our society. And there are many examples, such as Caster Semenya, such as examples in Robert's really wonderful article in the Mail and Guardian, about how individuals have stood against racism, but they're constantly finding themselves coming up against these powerful regimes in sport who, talk the talk, but don't walk the walk. And so they'll claim that they're against racism, but they do very little in practice to challenge racism systemically. So there's always the spectacle of reconciliation, the spectacle of being against racism. And if I could just conclude my introductory response to your question, the 1995 World Cup is such a fine example of all of these complexities and the contradictions. We all remember, as you reminded us in your introduction, of that iconic photograph of Nelson Mandela and Francois Pienaar at the end of the final and the handing over of the World Cup trophy to Francois Pienaar by Nelson Mandela. And that image has sort of remained iconic because it seemed to represent the idea of overcoming divisions, of nation building and reconciliation. And yet, in the article of Robert, there's a really wonderful photo of Nelson Mandela at the rugby game. And just behind Nelson Mandela is a very controversial figure, the former rugby supremo Louis Lake. And Louis Lake, just to remind your listeners, in 1998 took Nelson Mandela to court, hauled him to court, because Nelson Mandela, as the president of the country, instituted a commission of inquiry into rugby. And Louis Lake, who controlled rugby, to put it bluntly, as an old white boys club, did not want to have a democratic light shone on the inner workings and the power of rugby. And so we have these sort of two moments that reveal the contradictions of sport, and in this case particularly of rugby, but can extend that to any sport. So the point I'm making, Cathy, in response to your question, is that one cannot separate politics and sport. And we can take many examples that reveal to us the kind of profound contradictions at play.
Robert, just to pick on the point that Prof is raising there, it's that when we see these behaviors that are racist and racist and hateful and discriminatory, all other things that we can put into that basket, they're not always emanating from the fans. There are cultures, there are systemic ways in which these behaviors have been embedded. But again, a point that you've noticed is that often federations want to wash their hands clean, and associations, they want to claim the moral high ground and almost not want to get involved, but they will still take action against a player who decides to take a knee before a game and sanction that individual while still saying we promote anti-racism or we promote anti-hate, etc.
All that can be summarized in Nelson Mandela's best words of wisdom when he stated, "No one is born hating another person because of his skin or background or religion. If people must learn to hate, they can be taught to love, for love comes more naturally to the heart than its opposite." What did Nelson Mandela reflect? If there is systemic hatred, these people were not born hating. They've just learned to hate out of prejudice, indoctrinations, out of misconceptions, ideological indifferences, and intolerance as the source of such racial hostility, violence, and discrimination. So, literally, children are born innocent. So do those white minority in South Africa, or the white superiority concept. Children are born innocent. They just learn these vices. So what we should do, we should actually unpack the whole concept, the underlying factors that actually lead to such people to behave that way, to the extent that sports, as much as they has tried to unify us, but these inhuman behaviors still still linger in our life and day-to-day approaches. Punishing a player or vindicating a player like Lewis Hamilton that has come out, or Vinicius Jr. of Real Madrid that has come out to condemn racial racism by the very bodies that are supposed to protect him. Probably we need to start from scratch. We need to unpack the foundation of prejudice and discrimination. That way we shall have to deal with the systemic hatred within our institutions, or that has been even institutionalized. So in times like this, we must reflect on what actually binds us as humans, as one human race, and then we leverage on that so that we are able to combat this systemic hatred and all other vices that are lingering in our society. Sports is a key factor we can use, as Nelson Mandela indicated it clearly, that sports can unify the world. It works. Probably there's a lot to improve, there's a lot to work on. That's why the UN raised it as one of the pandemics that is actually eating up the world, scaling up extremism. Actually, it's because of that extremism, that's why we have all these wars that you are seeing in Sudan, that you are seeing in Iran, that you are seeing elsewhere in Israel. It's all out of chronic hatred and hate speech. So they gazetted a special committee, a special day to commemorate the International Day of Hate Speech, so that we are able to discuss, we are able to drive public discourse towards combating such a vice that is persisting in our society today. So it's a lot of hard work to do, beginning with our institutions, right at home, at all levels. We must work towards it. South Africa has moved a stretch in trying to combat it, but of course we also see other vices of hate speech through our own black race. Mm-hmm. The result of xenophobia is also a result of hate speech. The tribal sentiments we throw at each other because of our differences in tribes, religion, and external ideas that were brought to us by the other people from Europe, we continue because of these differences. So we must bridge those differences. We must understand each other.
Thanks for that, Robert. Prof, as I'm listening to Robert speak about, the ways in which these behaviors are also embedded within institutions, I think about how much of it has to do with money. The example that you gave a short while ago about this powerful figure who was a driving force within South African rugby. Often even administrators, they don't want to upset that guy, and much of it centers around how much money circulates within sport.
Absolutely. I think that you've put your finger on a critical issue. International sport is a multi-billion-dollar enterprise that is connected to economic and political power. Robert has referenced the Club World Cup taking place in the United States at the moment. And we can see how FIFA has fawned over Donald Trump. FIFA is about to open an office in a Trump Tower. And what one sees there is the interconnections between the FIFA hierarchy and global political and economic power. This may be particularly pronounced in football or soccer because of its prominence in world sport. But those interconnections infect all sport, from the Olympics, cricket, netball, etc., etc. And we really have to, place this issue, in the fore of our discussions, because Robert is entirely right that a sport can play a role in challenging racism and hate speech. But unless we confront the power structures in sport and the interconnections with global political and economic power, then I think that we may be naive about what can be done with sport as it is at the moment. There was a time when, grassroots movements could shift the sporting hierarchy, such as the 1960s and 1970s, when a global movement led to the expulsion of South Africa from the Olympics and other sports. So in that sense, there was still the ability to achieve that. Today, we see the hypocrisy of global sport. We are confronted today with the genocide unfolding in Gaza. And yet the sporting authorities, particularly FIFA, but also other sporting codes, refuse to take the same action against Israel, expelling Israel from global sport, as it did South Africa, and, by the way, as it did 3 years ago when Russia invaded the Ukraine. So we confronted simultaneously with these interconnections of power, economic and political power, which produces profound hypocrisy. And therefore, the kind of ambitions that we have about using sport to foster care, to foster anti-racism, all the time come up against these kind of strong political and economic powers. And that's what we have to confront. Otherwise, we are going to see sport being used to massage the egos of those who are in power. And, if I may make this point, yes, the 1995 World Cup and that iconic image of Nelson Mandela and Francois Pienaar had, resonance throughout the country and perhaps internationally. But what we must not forget about that iconic moment is that it was a fleeting moment of a kind of spectacle of nation building and reconciliation. Because as soon as that game was finished, we returned to our realities of racism in sport, of inequality in our society. So these moments generate, as the victory of the rugby team over the last 2 World Cups generated excitement, pride, and so on. But the day after, we return to the same problems, and we see the inequality that affects sports, especially at grassroots level.
And I suppose the point there is that sport absolutely presents the opportunity, but the real work that needs to be done to maximize on that is something that needs intention and commitment from all the stakeholders within that ecosystem. Let me thank you both for your really great insights into the conversation that we have had. All right, that brings us then to the end of the talking point for this morning. The show is back with you again tomorrow between 9 and midday.
Hi, my name is Kutlwana Masote, your host of Weekend Sundowner Classics every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. exclusively on SAFM. Now, this is where you get your best classical music jams on any radio platform. Join me every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between 4 and 7 p.m. Weekend Sundowner Classics.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation.
SFM's award-winning drama department presents another episode of the book, A Testament of Hope, the autobiography of Dr. Sam Motswenyane. Please note that the views expressed in this book are not that of the station. Listeners' discretion is advised.
The waiting rooms were divided into two, one side for whites and another side for coloreds, as blacks were known. We duly sat in the colored section, and when we boarded a bus, the coloreds would sit at the back and the whites would sit in front. On our way from Atlanta to Fisk University, we had to pass through a beautiful area in Alabama where the huge Huntsville Dam is situated. By the time we went past Huntsville, the bus was almost full, except for one seat that was occupied by a black person at the back end of the bus. An old, frail white man boarded the bus, and rather than share a seat with a black person, he preferred to stand. He was leaning on this very colorful stick on which his name, W. Stoner, was written very neatly. Of course, nobody gave up their seats for him, and for a long time, he struggled on his feet. That story remains very vivid in my mind because it demonstrated not only the unreasonableness of some people, but reflected the deep prejudice which still existed among some whites in the United States. We finally got to Fisk University, a black university, where we were allocated a room. We were pleased to arrive at this university, and the principal there tried to make us as comfortable as possible and even took us to some of the sporting activities at the university. I remember when we had gone to watch an American football match, my wife was stung on the mouth by a bee. Her lips swelled up very quickly, and she was rushed to hospital where she received an injection. From Fisk University, we proceeded to Louisville, the capital city of Kentucky and the home of Muhammad Ali. We spent a few days sightseeing in Louisville, taking in the beautiful scenery that surrounds the capital of the bluegrass country. We visited the University of Kentucky at Lexington, where I looked at some conservation projects. I learned about the Tennessee Valley Authority, a conservation project founded in the 1930s by Dr. Hugh Bennett, the father of conservation in America. Dr. Bennett induced the state of Tennessee to implement conservation methods that ensured that the power-generating capacity of the Tennessee River was fully harnessed. Lots of dams were built by the Tennessee Valley Authority, and power is still generated from there and supplied to the rest of the country. After about 2 weeks at Lexington University, I returned to North Carolina. On our bus trip back, passed through another Kentucky town called Frankfort, in a somewhat poorly developed area where we stopped at a restaurant around lunchtime. When we tried to enter the restaurant together with other passengers who were on the bus with us, and mainly white, we had a first-hand experience of American segregation. We were sent to the back part of the restaurant and told to sit on soap boxes and to have our own meal that way. We realized that what we were seeing and experiencing was no different from what we experienced back home, in spite of the enlightened, non-racial constitution of the American people. This experience showed us a side of America that was not known to a lot of us who had not visited that country before. Studies in North Carolina State College. Back in North Carolina, I got word from the African American Institute that they had secured a bursary for me to study agricultural science at North Carolina State College. We had by this time been in the United States for close to 4 months. When they evaluated my academic record from the Jan Hofmeyr School of Social Work, they gave me credits for some of the subjects I had done. This meant that I could complete my BSc Agricultural Studies in 3 years instead of the usual 4-year period. But regarding the science subjects like chemistry, mathematics, and physics, which were part of the entry requirements for the course that I wanted to do, I had to start from scratch, as science was not part of our high school curriculum at Wilberforce, and I had also not studied it in my senior certificate subjects. A further requirement for entry into the science disciplines in American universities was that one had to be at least a C average student. I had to go through all sorts of tests before I was finally admitted. My wife and I then faced a difficult dilemma. If she continued to stay in America with me, I would not have enough money to maintain her and myself. In addition, my aunt Kitsia, who was looking after our 2 children back home, had passed away. We took the decision that my wife returned to South Africa to take care of the children. That was quite a painful parting with many tears, but I wanted an education and I had secured an opportunity which I did not want to miss. I started at the bottom of my class but did my best and never took a holiday in 3 years. American universities have summer schools during the regular school holidays, and their summer holidays are up to 3 months long. So during the holidays, I would go to the summer school in order to shorten my study period in America. I worked so hard that in 1961, I was one of the top students in my class. I also benefited from the fact that I was much older than my fellow students. While they were playing during weekends, I would spend my time reading. Besides, my loved ones were in South Africa, and I wanted to finish and go home. My wife and I wrote to each other regularly. My scholarship only covered my tuition, and I had to rely on others for help. First of all, talk to the university to give me a job so that I could generate some income. This is how I got the job of feeding guinea pigs during the afternoons. For this, I earned about $70 a month and shared it with my family. Every month, I sent $32 home to my wife as my contribution to the upkeep of the family. I did that religiously until the end of my studies. Then a friend in California, Dr. Ray Phillips, who had retired as a minister of religion, got to know that I was studying in North Carolina. He had contacts with the United Church in St. Paul, Minnesota, and got some of the church members there to support me in whatever way they could. One family that lived in California, Paul and Sarah Wazink, began to send me $30 a month on a regular basis. I shared that money with my wife and 2 children in South Africa. Then there was a group in St. Paul, Minnesota, that sent me a radio which I used to play in my room. They thought that I must be pretty lonely to be away from my family in a foreign country for 3 years. When I was due to leave America and return home, the radio was still in good shape, so I phoned them to say I was sending it back and that they can pass it on to another student who may need it. They were somewhat unhappy that I sent the radio back and said they had given it to me. They said I should have rather sold the radio and taken the money. I felt that it would have been very selfish of me not to pass it on to another deserving student. This is also why I feel so strongly that I owe it to those who helped me along the way. I was helped by others to reach the end, starting with my parents and everybody else who contributed to what I am today. This includes the hand that we do not see. Just before I was due to graduate in 1962, I contracted TB and was rushed to Gravely Hospital in Chapel Hill. I was coughing a lot and had to be isolated for a while. That interfered with my graduation as I still had to do 1 hour of mathematics before I could graduate, and the university was quite strict about the outstanding work. I had to do the 1 hour. After I was discharged from Gravely Hospital, I made the decision to return home as my wife was reportedly also unwell. The doctors at the hospital had indicated that I could continue with my treatment at a local hospital and that it was safe for me to stay with the family. Fortunately, my wife was not in serious ill health.
That was another episode of the book, A Testament of Hope, the autobiography of Dr. Sam Mohlahlana. The book is available online on www.kmmr.co.za, KMMR Publishers, and in all leading bookstores countrywide. It is broadcast on SAFM at 11:45 Monday to Thursday on The Talking Point. It is produced for the station by Vovi Patala, read by Samson Kumalo. Technical production, Wiseman Manele, Nanda Koza, and Tato Mapuruma.
O'clock on Thursday, the 10th of July, 2025. A very warm welcome to Update at Noon here on SAFM. Leading the conversation, I'm Sakina Kamwendo. Coming up in the next hour...
What we want is people to be held accountable. And if somebody lied to Parliament, that is a criminal offence. They must be held accountable by leaving government. The President must take action. The President cannot be quiet when there's a massive crisis like this.
The Democratic Alliance has laid criminal charges against Police Minister Senzo Mchunu in Cape Town Central Police Station, and the European Court of Human Rights has ruled in favour of Caster